Well, the internet has exploded over the past few hours over a new report in the Daily Mail from multiple CIA whistleblowers. Those CIA whistleblowers are revealing for the first time that for decades, the CIA has played a central role in collecting alien spacecraft. The CIA has an office called the Office of Global Access, and they have collected at least 9 non-human craft, 2 of which are completely intact. Christopher Sharp is one of the authors of the story in the Daily Mail. He is also the editor-in-chief of Liberation Times, and he joins me now. And Chris, first of all, I just got to say, great reporting on this story. The work that you and your co-authors have done on this has opened up quite a few can of worms. Amazing work. Multiple highly credible sources have now come forward and confirmed your reporting on this. So you've really let the cat out of the bag, Chris. Great work.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on as well, Clayton. Yes, I mean, so this process started in the summer when I was doing research around the Office of Global Access and JSOC. I was doing research and had spoken to a few people about a possible crash retrieval program relating to craft of unknown or non-human origin. And it seemed that these places were very, very well suited to such a program. For instance, a source told us, as it turns out, JSOC's counter proliferation capabilities and those of the agency are also perfectly suited for this type of mission with specific expertise and security compartmentalization already built in. So the Office of Global Access is within the CIA, and that's within its Directorate of Science and Technology. So those are the guys you go to if you need access to a foreign country to retrieve some hazardous material. It could be a nuclear weapon, or it could be a foreign craft or some type. So those are the guys who get you the access. And then they work with JSOC, which is the Joint Special Operations Command. So they oversee Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and some of the other special operations units. And from my understanding, these units, such as Delta Force, for example, have expertise in counter proliferation. So when you're dealing with potential non-human craft with radiological material, they're perfectly suited to such things. So I started doing the research, and I started speaking out to some sources in the know, and the feedback was like, wow, you've hit upon something here. It was very difficult getting quotes, even anonymously at first. We were getting corroboration. I brought my co-author, Matt Ford, on board, who had other very, very well-placed sources. And we went through an exercise of going through our sources, gathering information, getting corroboration, taking out anything that may be inaccurate. And then we thought, well, actually, we need more sources to provide quotations. We need a little bit more meat to the bone. So that's when I approached my colleague at the Daily Mail, Josh Boswell. And Josh then did his own corroboration on whether the story was accurate. He got back the same messages as us, that it was accurate. And he managed to get some more information. He managed to get some more quotations. And this is where we're left today with this story. It seems like we found a program.
We found a program. And I think for a lot of us, we've always thought that the CIA must be involved in this, right? But now we have confirmation of this from the CIA itself, confirming that the CIA is at the heart of this. And it makes sense. As you point out in your story, the compartmentalization, the secrecy with which the CIA operates is perfect for them to run off the books, black ops, stuff that doesn't come out of the traditional budget. As Tim Burchett pointed out yesterday in an interview with Tucker Carlson, he said that the Pentagon has failed its 6th audit in a row. 50% of their funding is unaccounted for. 50%. Imagine running a business like that. So the CIA was perfectly situated to be running these programs. And just talk about that secrecy and where they store these craft. Do we know where they're storing these craft that they have?
So the questions we should ask ourselves are things like, okay, are the CIA stations and mission centers across the globe, are they involved with the transportation of materials to contractors? I think that's a good question to ask. And if so, which contractors are they going to? From my understanding, they are basically they're getting them out of their hands as quickly as possible, so the paper trail is thin. And I think we should be asking questions. We should be asking questions of the deputy director and former deputy directors or assistant directors of national intelligence for acquisition, technology, and facilities. But basically, that's the term for acquiring technology and storing technology. So what do they know? It's funny as well because you've got someone called Dawn Mayericks. She is the former assistant director of national intelligence, to the same place, national intelligence for acquisition, technology, and facilities. And she was the deputy director of CIA for science and technology, which is where the Office of Global Access falls under. So you have to ask yourself a question: are they cooperating? Have the Arrow spoken to people like Dawn, for instance? Have other UAP investigations spoke to her? And if so, is she cooperating? Is she answering the questions that they're asking her? I think what you're finding is that they are trying to evade oversight, and it's very, very concerning. And look, I think a lot of people as well were saying, well, we don't know if to trust this story. It's using anonymous sources. That's fine. You don't have to trust me. You don't have to trust Josh. You don't have to trust Matt. Speak to the politicians. They can corroborate it with their own sources that they trust.
Right. Call a committee hearing, demand answers. But right now, what's happening in Congress is they're getting stonewalled. And the UFO Disclosure Act looks like it might be dead. Who knows if it's going to be dead or watered down. And there are certain members of Congress who stand to benefit from the military-industrial complex, who make a lot of money from the military-industrial complex, who are looking like they're trying to stonewall the UFO Disclosure Act. And so, yeah, members of Congress can be asking these questions. We can be calling members of the CIA in front of Congress and demanding answers about these off-the-books programs, and trying to find out more information, transparency for the American people. But it appears they really want to keep this hidden from the American people, the amount of money. To me, it sounds like a criminal organization. It sounds like there are massive crimes being covered up here. Is that how you read it?
Isn't it crazy that you have Democratic representatives whose job it is to provide oversight on behalf of the electorate, and they're basically saying, no, we don't want more oversight. We don't want more transparency. Like, are we this living in a backwards world here when that kind of stuff happens? And you have to ask yourself in terms of, Mike Turner, he represents Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Okay, so NASIC is partially based at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So you have to ask yourself, are there any potential conflicts of interest, especially when it relates to this story? Are there facilities within Wright-Patterson Air Force Base relating to acquiring foreign technologies and potentially reverse engineering them? So do you have those conflicts of interest? I mean, that's a good question to ask. I'd also point out as well, something also which wasn't in the story. I mean, there's two aspects to mention as well. So firstly...
Yeah, I wanted to point out, so you and I were texting before the show, and you said, Clayton, there's some new information that's come out. New information that we didn't have when we first hit publish on this story, further confirmation. Can you go into some of that? Just wanted to set the stage for our audience here.
Sure. So just to clarify, this is actually information that we had in the original story, single sourced information in terms of one piece of information, and then multi-sourced in another piece of information, which I'll get down to. So the first thing was that I was hearing that the US Air Force's first Special Operations Component Maintenance Squadron is involved in a potential transportation of such materials. Now, that's based in Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, which is the exact facility that representatives were denied access to a few months ago, including Representative Luna and Representative Burchett, because someone from that base, a pilot, saying that they had seen UAP over the Gulf of Mexico. So I think that's really, really interesting, definitely, and something to explore and to investigate further and see if you can corroborate with other sources.
I just want to point out, because your audio kind of clipped there for a second, but I want to make sure our audience understands that. So there's a pilot who saw something out of Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. Members of Congress went to try to go there. They were told they're not allowed to go there. They're not allowed to see what they have there. And this is where this Air Force Special Operations information you're getting, operations, is coming out of Eglin Air Force Base.
Yeah, it just so happens it's coincidental that this unit is also based there, which I find quite interesting. And then the other thing as well, I mean, we kept on hearing a story about, so the way it works from our understanding is that it's very, very dependent on where special operations units are in the world. So if a SEAL team, for instance, happens to be near a location of a crashed or landed craft, they'll be sent out there because they'll be the closest unit. And we kept on hearing a story about a SEAL team that was sent out to a site of an alleged crashed non-human craft. And at first they thought it was some kind of like Star Wars secret technology, but then they started to get the impression that actually this was not human, that this was a non-human craft. And then from my understanding, different people within that unit started getting very, very concerned that they didn't have cover and that this was potentially illegal. And this is a good time to point out that if these allegations are correct and that you do have special operations units involved in retrievals, we should not demonize them because a lot of them may not simply know what they're involved with. I just think we need further investigations into this, and I think Congress should be taking this seriously. As I said, they can seek corroboration with other sources, and we should investigate these allegations.
You know, there are plenty of reports that we've covered here on this show that these are not, these craft are not from another planet currently, that they have been here for thousands of years, and that we've been in contact with them for a very, very long amount of time. And the U.S. government is complicit and absolutely knows that this is the case. What are you seeing in your reporting to confirm or deny that these are not just flying in last week, but they are here? They are in ocean bases. They are in Antarctic bases. They are right before our eyes, and they've been here for a very long time.
Yeah, they are here from my understanding, and that's why I'm hearing from multiple sources. And on some occasions, they're cloaked as well. And from my understanding, the US government has ways to actually detect them, even when they're cloaked. And as I said, these are allegations. I think that we should be taking them seriously because they're coming from very, very senior intelligence and defense officials. And they're all saying the same thing. So either you've got all these very, very well-educated, experienced, very, very senior intelligence and defense officials trusted with the most classified information in your government, briefing senior members of Congress and the White House. So either they've all gone mad, they've all gone completely crazy or being misled, or they're telling the truth. Whatever way you look at it, this is a big story.
Right. It's not a distraction at all. This is arguably one of the biggest stories of all time, and we should absolutely be looking at it. We should actually be asking the questions, why is the U.S. government hiding it from us? Why are governments hiding it from us? Certain governments are more transparent than others, but the United States government clearly wants to keep this secret, and to me, it's criminal. It's criminal. U.S. taxpayers are funding this. We demand answers. We demand to know how this is being operated, where these are being kept, who is behind it, and who stands to make money off of it. We would do that in any sort of a court trial. We would want to know why certain members of Congress are trying to cover things up. Well, in their own backyard, they have a branch of the U.S. military that's telling them, don't go look there. You can't look there. And they're taking money from these people. And this in the military industrial complex. It's a criminal organization that's unfolding right before our eyes. Chris, any final thoughts on this? I did want to ask one final question here, which is I heard journalist Ross Colhart say he 100% agreed with your reporting. He wanted to add one thing, which was he had heard that it's even more than 9 craft that the CIA has in their possession. nine craft, I think maybe is what you confirmed, but there are reports that it's perhaps far more than that. What do you say to that number of 9?
Yeah, so the source that Josh spoke to on that said at least 9. So the key
At least
at
9.
least, yeah. So that came from one of those sources. I think Josh could perhaps provide greater context into that. Yeah.
Well, I would encourage our audience, have an open mind about it. Read the reports and read this Daily Mail report from Chris and his co-authors. I think it's amazing work, and we're just starting to really scratch the surface. I think 2023 has been a very important year for disclosure. So, Chris, great job on this. Keep us abreast as you continue to peel this criminal onion apart, and we will feature it here on the show.
Thank you so much, Clayton.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.